Hi everyone, this is Selena Kraus and welcome to another Hero Arts card video. In this video, I will show you how to make this card using the Halloween trimming stamp and cut, along with the new circular peekaboo doors fancy die and the Halloween scene background stamp. So let's get started. First, I'll be using my Misty stamping tool to stamp the background. So I have a piece of pitch black cardstock along with the Halloween scene die and the circular peekaboo doors fancy die. So let's get started. I'm using larger piece of cardstock than what my panel would be. So I have some space to adjust when I die cut the background, as well the magnet, because I will be embossing and I would like to stamp a couple times. So I have a little bit space to have that magnet onto the cardstock so it holds it in place. I'm using the new watermark and embossing ink. So I'm covering the entire stamp with the ink and stamping once, and then I'm going one more time to have nice coverage with that embossing ink. Next, I'm using the white embossing powder. I'll just pour all over the cardstock. As well, using larger piece of cardstock for a background gives me a spot where to hold that panel so I don't put my fingers accidentally in the embossing powder and remove it from where it's sticking. Next, I'm using my heat tool to melt that embossing powder. So it's really hard here to see on video how it's melting because it's white. If we have clear or other color, it will be easier to show up. So then I'll do some coloring using the reactive sea salt ink. I just put a couple drops on an acrylic block and I'm just coloring the images. So first I'm applying the white, the sea salt, and then I'll go over where I've colored with sea salt, I'll go over with colored reactive inks. So the white on the bottom allows that color to show up more. So I'm using key lime. I'm using as well berry smoothie, creamsicle, and taffy. So here I just used the ink pads. It was easier than digging for my reinkers. So I'm using acrylic panel, or you can use any non-porous surface to smoosh some of that ink from the ink pads and pick it up with your water brush. You can use any water brush you have on hand. Here I'm using one with water reservoir, but you can use a regular water brush as well. So I'm just using that to color in some of the images. Some of the images I left white, like the ghosts and the bones. And then I'm using some lemon drop for the little stars. And as well for the lamp. So we're almost done coloring here. So you will want to let these dry before you move on to the die cutting. So next, after this is dry, I'm positioning that die over my image. And then I'll secure it with some washi tape or any masking tape you have on hand. And making sure that it's aligned properly when I run it through my die cutting machine. By magic of YouTube, it's already die cut and we'll just remove it from the rest. So here are those little doors. Next we'll stamp the background that goes behind those doors. So I'm positioning that white dove white piece of cardstock. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm positioning behind that die and putting it in my Misty. I secured it with a piece of washi tape so it doesn't move. And I'm using the die to align, to put those little stamps where to be positioned directly behind those doors. So they're lined up correctly. And I'm using for those little images, they're from the Halloween trimming stamp and cut. And as well, I'll be using the die that comes, that says Happy Halloween for the front of my card. So there is that Happy Halloween. I die cut it twice from Pebble cardstock. As well, I die cut a circle of vellum using the Circle Infinity dies. So I die cut it twice. The first layer, I'll spray it with the white iridescent shimmer spray to add a little bit shimmer to my card. I really like this spray for backgrounds or just for sentiments. It just adds a little bit extra to your card. Next, to speed up the process, I decided to use my heat tool to dry it. So I don't need to wait, or you can just set this aside and let it dry on its own. So I have those two, and then I'll adhere them to, in order to add some dimension to the sentiment. That's why I cut two of the layers, two of the sentiments. I'll adhere them together, and I'm using the new precision glue from Hero. And it's really good. It's very strong adhesive, and it's great for adhering those sentiments together, or for more intricate die cuts, or even sequins, or anything else that you need to adhere to your card. And it's very strong adhesive. It comes out white but dries clear. So I'm doing the same with the Happy. So on the top I have that the layer that I sprayed with the iridescent spray, and on the bottom I have the regular Pebble die cut. So I'm putting an acrylic block on top so it dries like flat. We're going to adhere it again onto our card so it will be flat, but I just want to be make sure that everything dries properly. So next we'll apply the adhesive on the back of the die cut piece. So make sure when you apply the glue that you don't apply on the doors or where they're opening, because that will close them shut. So just apply around the doors, very thin layer of adhesive, and then adhere it on top of the layer, on top of the cardstock that we stamped those little images that go behind the doors. Next we'll adhere the sentiment onto the vellum circle, and after that we'll adhere it onto our panel. So I'm using the precision glue and making sure that it's centered. And then I'm doing, first I did Halloween on the bottom, and then I'll be doing an Happy on top. So we have Happy Halloween, and I'll put again that acrylic block on top in order and let it dry for a little bit. After it's dried for a little bit, I'm going in the back of the vellum. I'm just putting adhesive on the back of the sentiment. So when it dries, we don't see that adhesive on through the vellum, so that this way it's just hidden behind the sentiment. And I'll put it back onto my panel, and then I'll put larger acrylic block that I had lying on my desk and let that dry. Once it dried, we'll just adhere that to a top folding the white note card, and this will finish our card. So I'm just scribbling of that. I love using liquid adhesive because it gives me a little bit more time to wiggle that layer to make sure that it's lined up properly. So here's another closer look of the card that we just made, and with the little doors open. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the Hero Arts YouTube channel, as well to visit the blog for more ideas and inspiration. Thanks for watching. Bye!